this is For the Win. I'm Mellisa Idris, and this week I'm at Common Ground in KL Eco City. Joining me on the show once again for episode 8 of our 10-part series is Shankar Santhiram, the managing consultant of EQTD Consulting. He's also on radio at daily at 6:50 a.m. and 9:10 a.m. with a show called The Right Perspective.
With Shankar Santhiram.
With Shankar Santhiram. That's on Light. You can catch
Just in case you forget my name.
With Shankar Santhiram. It's branding, Shankar. It's all about the branding. So your branding today is helping people learn how to have a purpose, learn how to attain success from that purpose, but there are steps. At work. And I think there are steps along the way, right? So throughout the series, we've been talking about identifying purpose, having the right attitude, building relationships. Now, in the office, like in any battlefield, there are rules of engagement. So once you've fostered that relationship with the people you work with, you have to know the rules of how to behave in an office, right?
And this is where it changes from time to time, age to age.
It changes.
It does, because I think if you think about it, right, probably for the first time, I've read this, I haven't done enough research myself on this, but I get a sense that this is fairly accurate. For the first time, probably in the history of humanity, we have organizations that are straddled with different generations, right? So you have, for example, I'm going to be 50 in a couple of years, so I am Gen X.
Okay.
Right, so you have people who were born between 1945 and 1964, the kind of baby boomers. You've got the Gen X, you've got the Gen Ys, you've got the millennials, and then you've got the nexters, all sitting in the same organization.
Right.
And all of us have such different modalities of work, different modalities of behavior as well. For example, you'll find that the board of directors in many organizations right now are people who are in their 60s. 65. These are people whose modus is very collegial. Do you know what I mean? So they will be happy to sit and have a 6-hour meeting and drink coffee and eat curry puff and talk about stuff. And for them, it's all about sitting together in this, as colleagues and unraveling and getting things done. My generation, Gen X, we are really interested in work-life balance and that separation. Okay. So we're happy to have these meetings, but it needs to finish at 5.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to leave at 5:05. I want to be out of here. Right? Then you have the millennial generation, which is, you straddle a little bit between the two generations.
I identify more as Gen Y, but I technically
the Gen Y. So you are a Gen Y in that sense, and for you, you'd rather have as few meetings as possible.
Yeah.
And the meetings need to be very structured, and I want it to be 10 minutes, and then, okay, you need to do this, I need to do that, I'm done. Millennials don't want to come for meetings.
Don't want. WhatsApp meetings.
Why do I can be here at Common Ground, and you can be in the office, and we can talk to each other because we've got technology, man.
True.
Right? So now you have this group of people, all with such disparity in terms of modality.
Right.
And how do you bring everyone together? Right. And this is a problem in many organizations. So I think one of the things that we need to understand in terms of rules of engagement at work is authenticity. You've got to be authentic. That's what people want, right? So you don't need to go and tell a millennial that you're wrong and this is not how it's done, because the millennial will look at you, Mr. Gen X, and go, you are an idiot because you don't know how to behave.
Right. You don't understand technology.
Absolutely. I mean, I want to slap millennials all the time, but I have to hold myself. I have to hold myself.
I apologize to the millennials watching. It doesn't mean
listen. My organization is just run by millennials. Right?
That's true.
I am the oldest person in my company.
You owe a lot to millennials.
I completely, and I have my digital footprint. I have no idea what I'm doing. So every time there is an Instagram post or a Facebook post, it's like these people. But you see, just the simplest example of this authenticity is millennials write differently from me. Right? So Pamela Fong, who runs my kind of social media stuff, and Chelsea,
your right-hand woman.
Right-hand woman, and Chelsea, I got two. I have right and left. Right, both of them are fairly young. Well, they're very young, in their 20s, and they write English completely different from me. The language. And also the kind of iteration of the language, you know,
Right.
like, so they will use
Short
the word short
forms,
forms,
yeah.
which
The lingo is
the
different,
lingo is
right?
different,
Yeah.
right? So if I allow them to do it unbridled, then I come across as being disingenuous.
Right. It doesn't sound like Shankar Santhiram.
It doesn't sound like me,
Right.
right? But if I go to them and say that you guys must do it the way I want you to do it, they go
doesn't.
like, what do you mean? That's not how young people talk. What's wrong with you, man, old man? You know, we're supposed to do your digital footprint. So what we do instead is we have a dialogue, and we talk about this, and I need to make them aware that, you know, you're doing it and you're right, but you're representing me, which means the reader, the viewer, is actually thinking that I'm writing it. So
Right.
it needs to sound, and immediately they go like, that's right, I have to sound like an old man now.
Okay,
Right?
but with, you know, a young person's touch.
Young
Right.
person's
Okay.
touch.
Okay.
So I say, write like me, but make me look like you.
So
Yeah.
authenticity in this respect means that you are true to yourself, but you're adapting to the other person at work?
Absolutely. Authenticity also means a certain sense of being driven by purpose and then being genuine about it, right? So for example,
Being genuine about it.
I pitch up to you and I say, like, you know, I need your help, right? And I have to be authentic enough to say that, you know, I've not helped you in the past, I know, right?
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
But I really need your
So
help.
that
and
kind of level of
I'm-
authenticity.
I'm going to pay it forward right now. So what what can I do for you?
Okay.
You know, and from now on, I will be there for you. And this is the kind of authenticity that you need. Like, you know, when a staff member comes to me and says, I think you've not treated me well, because I think you've not increased my salary in the last 1 year, for example. And I've had that conversation. I don't immediately go, my natural instinct as a business owner is to go like, well, you don't do much work. You know, I don't really, you know. So I have to remember that my authenticity needs to be couched with a certain sense of inclusiveness, right? So I need to look at you and go, okay, firstly, I didn't think about it, and I'm sorry I didn't think about it. Secondly, when I think about it, my first reaction always is, what do you do for me? You know, do you do enough for me
Right.
to warrant this? But I also understand what we talked about last week, your goals, your needs, your challenges, and your concerns. So I understand that you need more money. I do appreciate that. Okay, why don't we find a nice balance here? So what do you want? You want 500 bucks more? I don't think you're worth 500 ringgit more. And I also don't think my company right now can sustain that. But how about we do a step up? Why don't I start off with 250 with you? And I'm happy to do that. I'm paying it forward. But you know, if for that 250, I need these things done. Will you be able to do that or not?
Okay. All right.
Right? So now we're having this conversation where you are not going like, but you're not paying me my worth. I'm going, this is what I think your worth is.
Okay, all right. So that is, I think, so that's a really great place to start, right? Being authentic in the workplace.
Yeah.
I think that boils everything down to that. Okay, so that's the first rule of engagement when it comes to how you should behave in the workplace. We're going to come back with more rules after this on For the Win. Stay with us. You're watching For the Win with Mellisa and Shankar. We're talking about how to behave at work. Now, just before the break, we were talking about authenticity, which is, I guess, the basis of, you know, the golden rule for how you should behave at work.
Every relationship with anyone is being
that's
authentic.
true. That's true. That is the ideal, right, Shankar?
We just talked about this off air. I mean, you know, we talked about the fact that we are far more connected with people who we think are telling us what they really believe in. Right? I've had business associates, I've had company owners, I have had people that I do work with who can speak really well and who are very sweet and nice, right? But I know as they're talking to me that I don't know if I can trust you or not.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you're telling me really what you feel. It's not about telling me the truth. The truth is very, very subjective.
Correct.
But I'm interested in understanding what you feel.
Right.
So I try as much as possible in the work that I do with the people that I lead to be as honest as I can by telling them how I feel. But I also know that honesty sometimes is painful.
So when you talk about authenticity, right, Shankar, and that's the ideal, not all of us are authentic at the workplace because the lines are blurred. For instance, you have to, even though you don't like the person, you can't be authentic and, you know, be horrible to that person. You have to be professional. So there's a certain kind of cordial behavior at work.
Yeah.
How does that blur the lines between being authentic and being honest?
But you've also got to be authentic to yourself. I mean, if I really don't like you, I can't lie about the fact that I don't like you.
Right.
But if I'm purpose-driven, I realize that I don't need to like you. I have a functional relationship with you. So it is an expansive mind or a contracting mind. I always think that if you contract your mind all the time. So, for example, you asked me some time ago, how is it that I do so many things?
Yeah, where do you find the time?
It's interesting. It's nothing to do with the actual time that I have. It is to do with the space I have in my head.
Okay.
I have an expansive mind, and it gets me into trouble sometimes. Right? So Astro got in touch with me recently and said, would you like to do a weekly podcast on show?
And you said yes,
I
right?
had no idea how to do it. I had no idea what it meant. And I just said yes. I went back to my office, spoke to my team, and they went like, do you know how much work this is? I'm like, I don't know. I just said like, yes, I'll do it. And then I find it. I mean, also because I'm influenced by the things that I read. Right? So I read people like Richard Branson who say, that famous quote of Richard Branson, say yes first and go and figure it out.
And figure it out. Yeah.
I know a lot of people are so cliched, and that's easy for Richard Branson to say because he's got all of that. I think Richard Branson is not saying it because he's got all of that. I think he's got all of that because he said it.
Because he believes it.
Because he believes it. And this, I think, is an important part. You have to decide who you are.
Okay.
And perception is really, really important,
Perception of yourself or perception of others?
Well, let's start with this premise, right? So if I look into the camera right now, everyone's listening to me, and I say, do you think you should get paid more than what you're getting paid right now? Abang K, our cameraman, is nodding his head really,
I don't know anyone who would shake their head at that question. I mean, everyone will say yes,
nodding, yes,
for sure.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter what you think.
It doesn't matter what I think.
It doesn't matter what you think. Because you think you should get paid more. You and I both think we should get paid more right now. But it doesn't matter a blind bit what we think.
Okay.
What matters is the people who make the decision on what we get paid. Because other people decide what we get paid. My clients decide what my worth is.
Other people decide what we get paid.
Yeah, so
right?
I know that I want to charge X ringgit for a day's training program, right? So that's my best case, and that's what I want to charge. My client says, I'm sorry, man, you're not worth that. Or my client says, this is very derisory laughter here, which is upsetting me a little bit.
I feel like that came from a sore place.
But so my client says, no man, I don't think that's I don't think you're worth that. Or sometimes you get clients who go like, yeah, that's fine. A classic example, I was invited to do a training program some years ago in Indonesia for a very large bank. And I had a lot of work, and I was trying to fob them off, but I still said yes. So all I did was I took the Malaysian ringgit value and I converted it to US dollars, hoping that the president director of the company would say, oh, that's too much for us. And without batting an eyelid, he said, yeah, sure, done. And at which point I was really upset with myself because I thought, did I just undersell myself? I could have asked for more money.
You could have.
And that's one of the lessons that I learned, that perception is so important. Your perceived value. So if you're earning 5,000 ringgit a month, let's take a round figure like 5,000. And I'm not sure if I've mentioned this before. If you're earning 5,000 ringgit, what does that mean? That means that your perceived value, that means your skills and your knowledge are perceived to be valued at 5,000. You think you should get paid more, but that's what the people who make decisions on your revenue, that's their decision.
So what goes into someone's perceived value of you?
It's your branding, what you put yourself forward as. For example, if you go to Penang, and we both come from Penang, we're happy to go and eat a plate of char kway teow. And Penang is probably one of the places that you can still get noodles for like 4 ringgit, 4.50, 5 ringgit, right? But you can also go and find a plate of mee goreng. You can go to Hamid Pata and have a mee goreng, and it's going to cost you 11 ringgit because you add sotong and all sorts of other things inside, right? But you can go to Burma, Bangkok Lane and eat a mee goreng there, and you pay 8 ringgit. But you can also find a small little gerai somewhere in Union Street where the guy will fry a mee goreng for you for 3.50. It's perceived value. What are you willing to pay?
Okay.
Like food is such an important thing for Malaysians, right? Generally, and I'm in the food business. I have restaurants and other things, and people will drive miles. You will drive miles to go to Parit Jawa to eat nasi lemak, or ikan bakar. You'll drive miles to Klang to go and eat your seafood, or you will drive to, I don't know, wherever. You'll go to Ipoh to nasi bangge.
Kajang for satay.
You'll do whatever. You'll do whatever.
That's true.
Why? Because it's perceived value.
Okay.
Pure perceived value. I will sometimes, right? It's crazy, right? I will get in the car and I'll drive to the Dengkil rest area to go and eat Haji Samuri satay.
Okay, all right. Just because
you know,
for you, the perceived value is worth the drive.
Put it into my head. Okay. Oh, really? That's the way it is.
So here's the thing, Shankar. Perceived value can change. It varies from person to person. So while the person deciding what your salary is may have a certain perceived value of you, your perceived value to your colleagues may be completely different, and your perceived value of yourself could be completely inflated as well.
Absolutely. And you need to understand that your perceived value of yourself is never important.
Really?
No, it's not important at all.
But isn't the perceived value of yourself the basis of your authenticity?
Well, you have self-esteem and self-respect, and you know what you're good at. And I think you need to have that self-awareness of who you are.
Okay.
Right?
Don't inflate it.
And don't inflate it, and let's not conflate the issue. This is your own self-esteem, and you know what you're worth, right? Now, if the people around you think that you're only worth this, you have to make a qualified decision at the time, whether you stay in that organization or you go somewhere else where you think you are going to get better value.
Okay.
Right? Where you are going to be valued more than what you are being valued at this organization. This is what I tell everybody. Don't sit in a company, stay there and moan and whine and, you know, just be a morale buster, you know what I mean, for everyone around you. Now, people who sit in companies for years and all they do is spend all their time pulling everybody else down.
It is an energy. Yeah, there are some people who are energy draining.
Suckers, they drain your energy completely. I just tell you, it's very simple. I think it's really easy. Stop complicating your life, right? So you don't like something, you got three choices. First choice is to negotiate. We talked about this before. You go and negotiate. I want this, I want that, I want this. And remember that you cannot come to the negotiating table if you have zero value. Right? People must want something from you. They're willing to listen to you. There are some people that you will listen to, and some people you won't even bother. Right? You just go like, yeah, thank you very much, bye, 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 bye. No time for you, right? But there's other people who go like, you want to leave? Hey, wait, sit down, sit down. What is it that you want? So, if you negotiate, you get what you want. You are supposed to be happier.
Right.
Right? You don't necessarily become happy, but I'm just saying that...
Supposed to be.
Yeah, because
you think that's what you want.
The thing that's upsetting you right now, you negotiate, you get what you want, you're done. If you don't get what you want, you have two choices right now. First is you stay, but if you stay, you have to shut up and stay in the organization. Right. And you should only stay in the organization for one of a few reasons. Number one, you need the money, and you're not sure. The market is too soft outside, and you can't go. And let's be completely honest, we all work for money. Right? We work for money. This whole higher cause, that comes, that drives you forward. But basically, you need to take money off the table.
Right, yeah.
Money
is a consideration.
Money is an important consideration for what we do. So you go, you know what, I can't go outside anywhere else because of the money. Next, Melissa's my line leader. I don't really like her, but I know I can still learn from her.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't have to like her to learn from her. I like her authenticity. I like the way that she bulldozes. I like the way that she, you know, she figures problems and deciphers issues. Right? Am I making you out to be a monster? You're not. You're not a bulldozer.
It's close to home.
Right? Did I? Right? So she'll get this. So I like learning from her. Well, number three, I think my skill set's not wide enough.
Okay, so still want to
I still need to gather. You know, like a very smart millennial told me a few days ago that, you know, she got great advice from her brother, who said that when you first start your job, forget about how much money you're getting paid. Just get in there, do any rubbish that comes along, so long as you learn. Leave that organization when you don't learn anymore. And I thought, what a great piece of advice for an elder brother to give a sister. Do you know what I mean? I thought, this is really clever.
That's really
it's really, really clever idea to be, you know, promulgated.
Yeah.
And I think this is what, so simple, go negotiate. If you got value, people will listen to you. If they don't give you what you want, then decide. You want to stay, you want to go. You want to stay, you shut up and stay.
Yeah.
Why am I sounding like a Penang guy right now?
Because you are a Penang guy. You are a Penang. Okay, so then the last option is leave. If you're so unhappy, then leave. Okay.
And have the self-efficacy to leave. Have the confidence to go and get another. Because you check up songs.
Because you think you want to go somewhere else where you're valued. Okay. We're gonna come back on For the Win and talk a little bit about that branding. How you can brand yourself so that you can increase others' perceived value of you. Stay with us right here on For the Win. Welcome back to For the Win. I'm Mellisa Idris with Shankar Santhiram, talking a little bit about the rules of engagement in the office. The first one is always be authentic. So authenticity is important. And then know the perceived value, because it's other people who decide your salary, whether you get a raise. And the third one, which is related to it, is branding.
Yeah.
So what other people think of you has a lot to do with how you position yourself in the office.
Absolutely. I mean, your branding. I mean, what is your personal branding? I think all of us need to ask ourselves what our personal branding is.
In the office, right?
And it's not what you think. It's really interesting, right? So when I'm running my training program, I gather a group of people and I'll say, so give me one word that describes you. Right? So, people will curate that word, oh, I'm caring. I am kind, I am strict, I am funny, or I'm this, or I'm that, whatever. So they'll have these one words.
I have to ask you, what would be the one word to describe you?
To me, for me, mine, energetic.
Okay.
Energy.
Okay.
For me, it's just energy. I think I've thought about this repeatedly, and I think
that's how you would describe yourself.
Yeah, and it also answers your question about what did you ask me earlier? You said, how do you do so many things?
So much. Okay, it's because you're energetic.
Then I try to be authentic.
Now I have to ask you what you think other people would describe you as, because that's a perceived value, right?
My wife called me an Energizer Bunny.
Okay. How would other people
That didn't sound right, did it?
I'm just going to go.
No, she just sometimes says that I wish there is a switch I can turn you off.
Oh, got it.
I want to be able to like a click and then you're done.
Okay.
Right? How do people, I would imagine that people, see, the point I'm trying to make is this, and I'm not skirting and I'm not answering your question, but you will find that your branding, you have a perception of what your branding is. You have a perceived brand.
Correct.
Right? So I have a perceived brand that I'm energetic, right? But really my brand is not that. My brand is what people say about me when I'm not in the room.
Right.
That's my brand. And this is what I always ask people to think about. What do you think people say about you when you're not in the room? So I'll tell you the things that I have heard in the past through the grapevine, what people say about me, that energy, people say the same thing. Your colleague Sharad Kudden recently said that his problem with me is I've got too much energy, and that it's tough for him to deal with me sometimes because I'm buzzing all the time. People have said that I am fickle.
Okay.
That I change my mind often. I like to think that I'm dynamic and fluid, but but that can translate itself to being.
Because branding is about the perceived, right? The different
when
perspectives.
I was younger, my parents branded me as someone who couldn't complete tasks.
Okay.
Because I would get bored really quickly.
Okay.
And it's like an iteration of that energy that I have, that if I get stuck with something for too long, you'll just walk away from it and go to something else.
Get bored quickly.
Yeah.
All right.
So it was important for me to understand what my branding was, because because I want to curate my brand.
Yes. So you have to know first what people are saying.
And that's the rules of work. That is why, for example, we're all told never to indulge in gossip at the workplace.
In the office, I mean, that is the biggest killer of good quality workplace relations.
Of goodwill.
It is
and
toxic.
everything else. It
is toxic.
I completely agree with that sentiment, that adage that you shouldn't engage in office politics, and
office
you
gossip?
should not engage in office gossip. But I want to add one more thing. You shouldn't engage in it, but you should know everything.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is always my don't engage in the gossip, but understand what gossip is going on.
Okay.
Because that gives you a sense, puts your finger on the pulse of the organization, so you know. And so people ask me, how do you do that? Well, it's like this, water cooler gossip, right? So I remember this when I was in a fairly large organization, where I would be having a cup of tea, I would be somewhere and getting water or standing in a group of people, and this gossip would start.
Right.
So I wouldn't just walk away, I would
listen,
observe and get that information. And the moment someone turned to me and said, so what do you think? And that's when I bolt.
Okay.
At which point I go like, I have nothing to say about this. You guys, see, man, don't get me into trouble. I'm out of here. Right?
Okay.
I don't engage. So which means I don't want to engage with you to either quash the gossip or to propagate it any further.
To fuel it,
To fuel it any which way. But I want to know what you guys are talking about, because I know how to, because that's my authenticity. Okay. My authenticity comes from the fact that I actually connect with people. I said about, we talked about this, that you really need to understand people.
Yeah, you have to study and understand them. Yeah,
absolutely.
Invest time in it.
Because I'm going to work with you, right? And I know that you're the biggest gossip in the office.
Not me personally. I mean, this is a hypothetical situation, right? This is a hypothetical situation.
I can vouch for the fact that Mellisa Idris is not a gossip.
Thank you.
So now, the imaginary Mellisa Idris that I work with is a gossip, right? And I know that already, so which means I tread with that in mind.
Okay.
So which means whatever I say, Because sometimes in my nature, I know I'm very contextual in the way I do things. So I might say to you, hey, you know what, Sharan said this the other day, and why is he saying this? Maybe we can, or he suggested that we should do this and we should do something else. So if I know that you are the gossiping type, then I won't use my colleague's name.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Because I know that that'll get out of bounds and out of control.
And it could be taken out of context.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because everything is contextual.
Correct. Okay. All right. So I really like that. So don't engage in the gossip, but pay attention. Listen to what it is.
Know it.
Know it so that you have a sense of what is being said around you. You have it all impacts your perceived value of someone and their perceived value of you. So that's the only way you know how other people are seeing you, and that's the way for you to change your branding.
Yeah. And
correct?
you want to curate your branding.
Yes, exactly.
You want people to see you the way you want to present it, because people respond to us.
Yeah.
People always respond to us, and if we have no control over how we behave, and we just let it go, then people are responding to something that you don't want.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's when you have this, you walk into the office and go, why do people think I'm like this?
Yeah, and that breeds that kind of unhappiness in the
Well,
office.
I can tell you people think you're like this because that's the way you actually are. Right? So why does everybody think I'm lazy? Because you actually come across as being completely lazy.
Okay.
Why does everyone think you're so, why does everyone think I'm so combative and I'm up for a fight? No, because you're aggressive.
Come across.
You're not assertive, you're just aggressive every time. You're ready for a fight all the time. So I tell people this.
Okay.
And like my wife Susie will come to me and say like, why does everyone think that, I'm such a difficult person? And I go like, that's because you are difficult. She goes, I'm not being difficult. I said, no, you're very exacting in what you want.
Okay.
Right? And you live in Malaysia, where we are a little bit kind of, laissez-faire about stuff, a little bit loose and fluid, and, we're a little bit like that, So she goes, what should I do? Should I become, should I change my authenticity and become someone else? I said, no, you don't. You should be whoever you are, but you also need to understand that people here behave in this particular way.
I think that there's a certain way to negotiate the workplace, your professional life, to get what you want.
Absolutely.
Without compromising your authenticity, your perceived value, or your branding. Right? All right. So those are Shankar Santhiram's.
Well, are we done? Are we finished?
It is. We're done. That's all the time we have for today. But I thought that was really good. 3 top rules on how to behave in the workplace. Now, that's all the time we have for this week, but we will be back next week on For the Win. I'm Mellisa Idris signing off. See you then.